What if I told you that the most devastating thing that can happen to a narcissist isn't exposure, isn't public humiliation, isn't even losing their supply, it's being quietly, permanently, and completely discarded by the very person they thought they owned? Stay with me, because what Carl Jung discovered about this specific moment in the psychology of power will permanently change how you understand empaths, narcissists, and the hidden architecture of control. Most people think the empath is the one who suffers in these dynamics, and for a time they're right. But Jung identified something that almost no one talks about: a threshold, a point of no return inside the empath's psyche. And when that threshold is crossed, the entire power structure doesn't just shift, it collapses, instantaneously, permanently, and the narcissist never sees it coming. Here's why. And pay close attention, because this is where the psychology becomes absolutely extraordinary. Carl Jung understood that every relationship operates as a mirror, two psyches in contact, constantly reflecting, projecting, revealing. The narcissist enters this mirror dynamic with one goal, unconscious though it may be, to extract, to use the empath's extraordinary sensitivity as fuel, as a source of validation, control, and emotional supply. And for a while the empath complies, not because they're weak. Jung was very clear about this, but because their dominant function, what he called feeling function, naturally orients toward understanding others, toward seeing the potential in people, toward holding space for transformation. This isn't naivety. Jung called it directed empathy, a sophisticated psychological investment in human possibility. But here's what the narcissist fundamentally misunderstands. They confuse the empath's patience for passivity, their silence for submission, their continued presence for dependence. And that miscalculation, it's catastrophic. Because here's what's happening beneath the surface, in what Jung called the unconscious individuation process. Every act of manipulation gets catalogued. Every broken promise gets filed. Every gaslighting episode, every silent treatment, every manufactured crisis. The empath's psyche doesn't simply absorb these wounds and dissolve. It processes them, archives them, and slowly, in the deep layers of the self that Jung mapped across decades of clinical work, something begins to crystallize. Jung called it the emergence of the shadow-integrated self, the moment when a person stops accommodating their wounds and starts owning their power. And for the empath, this process is accelerated by something the narcissist doesn't possess and cannot understand: genuine emotional intelligence, the ability not just to feel, but to decode, to see patterns, to recognize with devastating clarity the exact architecture of the manipulation they've been living inside. The data reaches a critical mass, and then everything changes. But here's what will genuinely shock you, because this is not what most people expect to happen next. The empath doesn't explode. They don't confront, they don't send the long message. They don't seek revenge or public validation or closure. Jung was very specific about why, and the psychology here is profound. When an empath reaches what Jung called psychological autonomy, the need for external resolution disappears entirely. Not because they've gone cold, but because they've become complete. And complete people don't need broken systems to give them what they've already found within themselves. The discard doesn't look like a storm. It looks like a door closing quietly, finally, with absolute certainty. The narcissist wakes up one day and realizes something deeply unsettling. The empath has stopped trying, stopped explaining, stopped hoping, stopped engaging with the dynamic at all. And for a personality structure built entirely around reaction, around chaos, around supply, this silence is not peace, it's annihilation. Jung observed a psychological phenomenon he called enantiodromia, the tendency for things to transform into their opposite when pushed to their extreme. And nowhere is this more viscerally visible than in the moment the empath discards the narcissist. The person who was endlessly giving becomes selectively generous. The person who always returned becomes unreachable. The person who explained everything says nothing at all. What was once predictable, the empath's beautiful, devastating predictability, becomes the narcissist's worst nightmare. Because a narcissist's entire system of control depends on knowing your moves, on anticipating your reaction, on manufacturing just enough chaos to keep you engaged, off balance, seeking resolution. Take away that reaction, and the entire machinery breaks down. There's nothing to manipulate. There's nothing to control. There's no one left to play the game. And the empath. They've already left the building, not in anger, in clarity. Here's the part that most people miss entirely. And this is the insight that Jung spent years trying to articulate. The discard from an empath is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of profound self-respect. Jung understood that the highest form of love, what he called conscious love, includes the wisdom to recognize when a relationship has become an obstacle to growth rather than a vehicle for it. The empath doesn't discard out of revenge. They discard because they have finally, completely and irrevocably chosen themselves. They have reclaimed what Jung called the sovereignty of the self, that unshakable inner ground from which no manipulation can move them. And from that ground they make a clear decision. Not heated, not emotional, not reactive, decided. This is what Jung meant when he described the individuated self, a person who acts from their center, not from their wounds, who chooses from their values, not from their fears, who loves generously but protects wisely. Now here is what the narcissist experiences in the aftermath. And Jung documented this pattern with unsettling precision. First comes confusion, the tactics that always worked, the hoovering, the love bombing, the guilt, the charm, find no purchase. The empath has become, in Jung's terms, psychologically immune. They've seen behind the curtain. They know the script, and knowing the script, they refuse to read their lines. Then comes the rage. The narcissist, confronted with a mirror that no longer reflects back their fantasy, escalates, reaches out, demands explanation, manufactures crisis. But the empath, the individuated, shadow-integrated, psychologically sovereign empath, meets this with something the narcissist cannot process: silence and an absolute absence of need. Jung noted that the most devastating thing you can do to a system built on extraction is to simply stop being extractable. Not with hostility, not with performance, with genuine, permanent, unshakable detachment. And what about the empath? What happens on their side of this threshold? Jung called it the return to the self, and it is, in every sense of the word, magnificent. The empath who has discarded the narcissist doesn't walk away broken. They walk away refined, forged, in possession of something that cannot be taken from them, a self that has been tested, integrated, and made whole through the exact fire the narcissist thought would destroy them. They become more discerning, more present, more alive. They stop pouring their extraordinary capacity for connection into a vessel with no bottom. They begin directing that energy, that profound, rare, remarkable empathic energy, toward what is real, what is mutual, what is worthy. Jung called this conscious relationship engagement built not on need, not on rescue, not on the compulsive hope that love can fix what only the self can heal, but on genuine recognition, mutual depth, shared humanity. And the empath, standing on the other side of the discard, understands something at a bone-deep level that very few people ever reach. They are not defined by how much they endured. They are defined by what they chose to walk away from, and by the extraordinary person they became in the process. Carl Jung said that the goal of psychological development is not happiness, it is wholeness. And the empath who has walked through this particular darkness, who has been manipulated, drained, gaslit, and pushed to the absolute edge of their tolerance, and who has emerged not bitter but sovereign, not closed but discerning, not cold but clear, that person has achieved something rare, something that cannot be manufactured, performed, or shortcut. They have become, in the fullest sense of Jung's vision, individuated. And the narcissist, staring at the empty space where their supply used to be, finally understands, too late, what they were actually dealing with all along. Not someone they could own, someone they could only lose. If this reached something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the quietest transformations are always the most permanent.